So do you enjoy the content here on Thoughtful Faith? If so, be sure to hit the notification bell. This ensures that our new videos show up on your feed. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook group called Thoughtful Saints, where myself and others discuss the sorts of topics found on this channel. And lastly, if you think other people would benefit from this video, please be sure to share it. So there's a lot of buzz going around right now about this recent statement the church has made regarding the Respect for Marriage Act. It's an act which would formally recognize gay marriage at the federal level. The doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints related to marriage between a man and a woman is well known and will remain unchanged. We are grateful for the continuing efforts of those who work to ensure the Respect for Marriage Act includes appropriate religious freedom protections while respecting the law and preserving the rights of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. We believe this approach is the way forward. As we work together to preserve the principles and practices of religious freedom together with the rights of LGBTQ individuals, much can be accomplished to heal relationships and foster greater understanding. Initially, I was confused. Why would the church say something like this? Is the church just caving to social pressure? Well, anti-Mormons and activists within the church are clamoring online that it is. They're out saying that this is evidence that in the coming years, the church will change its doctrine and embrace gay marriage in the church. But an objective look at the context of the church's statement will reveal something very different. There is currently a major push by activists inside and outside of the church to expand the power of the government to regulate if religious institutions like BYU can discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. Their rationale is that if a business is not allowed to discriminate based on sexual orientation, why should a university like BYU? The church has rightfully been speaking often about the importance of religious liberty and rallying support to protect itself from the government. If you look closely, you will see that the statement by the church was released on November 15th, which was exactly one day after the U.S. senators added significant religious freedom protections to this bill. And if you look closely at the statement does not even say that the church supports the bill. It says that they support the efforts that were being made in the bill to protect religious liberty while also preserving the rights of gay people. The church is not against the legal equality of rights that exists between gay people and anyone else. Even back in 2008, the church was willing to grant civil unions so that gay people could have the same legal rights. But the fight, even back then, to redefine marriage was never about legal rights. It was about a cultural redefinition of the term marriage. And that's why the LGBT activists were not satisfied with civil unions. And frankly, they were wildly successful, and the cultural shift has happened in spectacular fashion. And now the church faces legal threats to its religious liberty. The reality is that this bill was going to pass probably anyway. Very, very likely that it was. And the redefinition of marriage in law is really ultimately, it's a ship that is already sailed. So the church has moved on to the next battle, the battle of protecting itself. If the church cannot preserve the proper definition of marriage in law, which it basically can't and already has lost that battle, then the church will change its strategy to protecting itself from those who would use the redefinition of marriage to force institutions like BYU to accommodate behavior and ideas that are contrary to God's commandments. The church clearly in its statement is saying that our doctrine is unchanged and will remain unchanged. The church and any sane members know that the legal battle to define marriage the way that God does is lost. In fact, it's so badly lost that now we find our religious liberty under threat. So the church is applauding legislation that ensures that religious liberty is protected, even if that means that we strategically retreat from the lost cause of properly defining marriage in law. Now, I don't see any problem in principle with what the church is doing in this. In fact, it seems like a wise move. It makes no sense to die on the hill of legal definitions in the current social climate. However, there is a question. Does this bill actually do enough to protect religious liberty? And that I don't know. It's a matter of debate. But the idea of the church granting the ground that has already been lost on the legal level in exchange for protections to ensure that we don't lose any more may be a very smart move. But for anyone thinking that the church is going to change its doctrine, I would encourage you to study the gospel and to listen to the brethren.
Regardless of what civil legislation may be enacted, the doctrine of the Lord regarding marriage and morality cannot be changed. Remember, sin, even if legalized by man, is still sin in the eyes of God. We also know that gender is an essential characteristic of individual premortal, mortal, and eternal identity and purpose. Marriage between a man and a woman is fundamental to the Lord's doctrine and crucial to God's eternal plan. God's marriage pattern cannot be abused, misunderstood, or misconstrued. While we are to emulate our Savior's kindness and compassion, while we are to value the rights and feelings of all of God's children, we cannot change His doctrine. It is not ours to change. His doctrine is ours to study, understand, and uphold.
Those who do not fully understand the Father's loving plan for His children may consider this family proclamation no more than a changeable statement of policy. In contrast, we affirm that the family proclamation, founded on unchangeable doctrine, defines the kind of family relationships where the most important part of our eternal development can occur. Fundamental to us is God's revelation that exaltation can only be attained through faithfulness to the covenants of an eternal marriage between a man and a woman. That divine doctrine is why we teach that gender is an essential characteristic of individual premortal, mortal, and eternal identity and purpose.
Thus, Satan seeks to confuse us about our stewardships and distinctive natures as men and women. He bombards us with bizarre messages about gender, marriage, family, and all male-female relationships.
But our claims for the role of marriage and family rest not on social science, but on the truth that they are God's creation. It is He who in the beginning created Adam and Eve in His image, male and female, and joined them as husband and wife to become one flesh and to multiply and replenish the earth. Each individual carries the divine image, but it is in the matrimonial union of male and female as one that we attain perhaps the most complete meaning of our having been made in the image of God, male and female. Nor we nor any other mortal can alter this divine order of matrimony. It is not a human invention.
Marriage between a man and a woman is ordained of God, and the family is central to the Creator's plan for the eternal destiny of His children.